There are moments in life when words fail, when human effort collapses, and only one cry can pierce through the noise of heaven, the cry of mercy. Every man who truly desires transformation must learn the secret of staying before God until something shifts. You don't just pray because it's religious duty. You pray until your voice becomes a sound that heaven cannot ignore. It's not about how long you speak, but how surrendered your heart becomes in that place of communion. There is a realm where prayer is no longer a routine, but a language of desperation, where tears become intercession and your silence becomes worship. It is in that posture that God moves. Because God is not moved by emotions, He is moved by genuine hunger. There is a cry that touches His throne, not a cry of complaining, but the cry that says, Lord, I can't do this without you. And when mercy speaks, wisdom begins to flow. Suddenly the fog clears and what was once confusion becomes direction. Grace then follows. The ability to handle what prayer brought into your life. You begin to think differently, walk differently, attract differently. For as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So tonight, lift your heart beyond words, beyond fear, beyond pride, and pray until something breaks open. Pray until mercy finds you. Pray until wisdom rests upon you. Pray until grace carries you. Pray until God moves. There comes a point in every believer's journey where strength fails, wisdom ends, and the only thing left is a cry that does not come from eloquence or structure, but from the depths of desperation. That cry is mercy. Mercy is the voice of the broken, the sound of a heart that has come to the end of itself. It is not the prayer of the qualified, but the surrender of the desperate. When a man cries for mercy, heaven leans in, because mercy is God's nature responding to human frailty. You cannot buy mercy. You cannot deserve it. You can only receive it. Many people try to approach God through perfection, forgetting that He is not moved by performance, but by humility. Mercy is not about how holy you think you are. It is about how honest you can be before the one who already knows everything about you. When you come before Him and say, Lord, I have tried, but I can't fix myself. That is when mercy begins to speak. Mercy does not excuse sin. It rescues from it. It is the hand that lifts you from the pit when justice demands you stay there. There is a mystery about mercy that breaks cycles, opens doors, and rewrites destinies. When mercy finds a man, everything about his past loses its power. The accuser may still speak, but mercy answers louder. It was mercy that lifted David after failure, mercy that restored Peter after denial, and mercy that covered you when you should have been lost. Every time you wake up and still feel the presence of God, that is mercy. Every time grace finds you again, even after you fell, that is mercy. Mercy is not weakness, it is strength in disguise. It is God's way of saying, I still have a plan for you. When you cry for mercy, you are not begging, you are acknowledging His sovereignty. And that cry touches something deep in His heart, because a broken and contrite heart, He will never despise. So don't be ashamed of your tears, don't be afraid of your weakness. Let your cry rise like incense. When mercy speaks, judgment is silenced, and the impossible becomes possible. There are moments in life when prayer is not just a request for help, but an opening of the spirit to receive direction. True prayer does not end in emotions, it ends in wisdom. When a man truly prays, his mind becomes still enough for heaven to speak. Many destinies are delayed not because God said no, but because men could not discern His yes. Wisdom is the voice of God clothed in understanding. It is divine direction given to those who wait long enough to hear. You can be full of passion and still miss your path if wisdom is absent. But one whisper from God, one divine instruction can accomplish what 1,000 days of effort never could. Wisdom is not learned in haste. It comes when prayer quiets the noise of confusion. Every time you bow before God and say, Lord, what should I do? You are opening the gates for wisdom to enter. The Spirit of God begins to arrange your thoughts, align your motives, and shine light on the steps ahead. That light is what the Bible calls the lamp unto your feet and the light unto your path. You begin to see what others can't see. You begin to understand what others overlook. That is what separates those who walk with God from those who walk by sight. There are doors that only wisdom can open. There are opportunities that only discernment can manage. Prayer does not just change things. It changes you so that you can handle the things that are changing. When you pray, your heart becomes sensitive, your mind sharp, your steps ordered. Suddenly, what used to confuse you now becomes clear. You begin to sense when to speak and when to stay silent, when to move and when to wait. This is not ordinary intelligence. It is divine navigation. Wisdom is heaven's strategy for survival and victory. It is what keeps blessings from becoming burdens. Every great man God used was a man who listened before he leaped. And that ability to hear, to know, to discern, it is born in the secret place. So when you pray, don't just ask for things. Ask for light. Ask for wisdom. Because one God-inspired decision can open doors that a lifetime of struggle never could. Grace is more than unmerited favor. It is divine empowerment. It is the hand of God resting upon human weakness, making the impossible possible. Many people pray for blessings, but few ask for the grace to sustain them. Without grace, blessings can become burdens. Without grace, opportunities can become traps. Grace is what makes a man stand where others fall and thrive where others struggle. It is not by power, it is not by might, but by the enabling presence of God that strengthens a person to do what would otherwise be beyond them. When grace rests upon you, things begin to align without human explanation. You find yourself excelling in areas you were never trained for. You speak and your words carry unusual weight. You move and results follow. This is not talent, it is divine backing. Grace gives you the ability to do more with less. It multiplies your effort, beautifies your work, and sustains your victory. That is why Paul said, I am what I am by the grace of God. He understood that grace is not a theory, it is an active force. The reason many lose what they prayed for is because they lack the grace to manage it. When God gives you something big, He also expects maturity and responsibility. Grace equips you for both. It gives you wisdom to handle people, patience to endure pressure, and humility to stay grounded even when you are elevated. Grace does not only lift you, it keeps you from falling. It is the difference between giftedness and greatness. Gifted people can impress men, but grace people impact generations. Grace also refines character. It teaches you when to speak and when to be silent, when to advance and when to retreat. It is God's way of shaping your response to success. Because sometimes the test is not in the wilderness, it's in the palace. Grace keeps your heart pure when recognition comes. It reminds you that you are still nothing without God, and that awareness keeps the oil flowing. So when you pray, don't just ask for open doors. Ask for grace to remain standing when the doors open. Ask for the strength to handle increase without pride. For the wisdom to manage blessings without losing focus. Grace is the breath of God that empowers man to live beyond limitation. It is heaven's gift for those who are willing to depend completely on Him. The mind is the greatest battlefield of destiny. Before anything changes in your life, it must first change in your thoughts. Prayer may open doors, but your mindset determines whether you can walk through them. You can cry, fast, and pray, but if your mind still holds the language of defeat, you will reject what God is trying to give you. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Your life will always move in the direction of your most dominant thoughts. The mind is not a container, it is a magnet. It pulls towards you the experiences that match your internal beliefs. That is why transformation begins with renewal, not emotion. Every thought is a seed, and your mind is the soil. When you keep meditating on fear, you grow anxiety. When you focus on failure, you produce limitation. But when your thoughts are full of faith, peace, and expectation, you create an atmosphere that attracts divine possibilities. Right thinking is not wishful thinking. It is alignment with truth. It is the discipline of refusing to dwell on what is wrong and choosing instead to meditate on what God has said. Your mind becomes a prophetic gate. Whatever dominates it eventually manifests in your reality. This is why the place of prayer is not only where you speak to God, but where He reshapes your mind. Prayer detoxifies your thoughts. It takes your mind out of worry and places it in alignment with divine order. The Spirit of God begins to wash away limiting beliefs, replacing them with heaven's perspective. Suddenly, you stop seeing yourself as a victim and start seeing yourself as chosen, empowered, and capable. You begin to think abundance, speak purpose, and act in confidence. The change doesn't start outside, it starts within. A renewed mind is the true sign of spiritual maturity. It means you now think from heaven's viewpoint, not from earth's pain. You no longer allow negative voices to dictate your value. You understand that what you meditate on becomes the fragrance of your life. So guard your thoughts like treasures. Let your mind become a sanctuary of light, a place where gratitude, peace, and faith continually dwell. Because when your mind is right, your world will align. When your thoughts agree with God's truth, life begins to respond accordingly. Your mind, shaped by divine wisdom, becomes an altar, and everything you attract will testify that heaven lives within you.